Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, let us invite our next and last keynote for the night, Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, the CEO and Managing Director of Hindustan Unilever. Mr. Mehta has worked across various geographies in various capacities at Unilever and in Union Carbide. Over to you, Mr. Mehta. Welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Delighted to be here and very thankful to Dr. Kapoor and to the National Competitiveness Forum for inviting me to share my thoughts. The subject I'm going to talk about is the role of corporates in social progress and nation building. This, in many ways, is close to what Professor Porter envisaged in his concept of creating shared value, where successful business corporates will work towards societal improvement with a focus equal to what the focus is in terms of economic value creation. There are many things similar to the principles on which Unilever was founded. The story begins in Victorian England in the late 19th century when one of our founders, William Haskett Lever, who set out to reduce the drudgery of washing with a bar of humble soap. He set out to create not only a great business which has stood the test of times, but a company with a very strong social mission. He gave voice through very eloquent words. He said, "I believe that nothing can be greater than a business, however small it may be, that is governed by conscience, and that nothing can be meaner or more petty than a business, however large, governed without honesty and without brotherhood." Closer home, here in India, around the same time, Mr. Jamshedji Tata set up the Tata business, built on strong business ethics and a spirit of contributing to the society. It was his vision of constructive change that led Mr. Tata to embark on a journey of growth that in many ways paved the way for industrialization in our country. The fact is that capitalism undoubtedly has brought in unprecedented growth and prosperity in the world. I firmly believe that it is still the best way to allocate scarce resources. However, unfortunately, many businesses perpetrated a flawed and dysfunctional economic system fueled by short-termism, causing growing disparity between rich and poor, a disregard for natural capital which increasingly pits people against the planet. This inequitable and unsustainable growth has led to a situation of an unprecedented disequilibrium. Just look at a situation where 1 billion poorest people in the world account for only 1% of the total consumption in the world, and the top 1 billion people account for 70% of the total consumption in the world. As per the Oxfam report, 85 richest people on the planet have accumulated wealth which is equivalent to the wealth which the bottom 3.5 billion people have. Just look at it. 85 people versus 3.5 billion people. These numbers are stark, telling, and indeed very worrisome. For too long, we have lost sight of a simple principle that a successful business has to be a responsible business. Business is today at a crossroad with trust in business and its leader at its lowest ebb. According to an Edelman Global survey, only 58% of people trust business to do what is right. And even more worrying is that less than 20% believe what the leaders can be entrusted to tell the truth or make ethical decisions. Today, the long-term growth of the business is at risk. We are consuming resources at a rate of 1.5 times Earth's ability to replenish. If the developing and emerging world were to consume at a rate equivalent to the developed world, it would tantamount to consuming resources at 3.5 times world's ability to replenish. But at the same time, we cannot deny billions of people the everyday benefits of nutrition, hygiene, and the improved quality of life. There is nothing we can do or should do to limit the aspirations of a large mass of people who are coming out of the poverty trap and getting into the consumption cycle. With 1 billion people going to bed hungry every day, with 2.5 billion people not having access to safe drinking water or sanitation, 2 million children under 5 dying every year due to preventable diseases, our work is cut out. The vision has to be to create a future which improves the quality of life without increasing the environmental impact. It's time for business to be givers and not takers from the system. There is a huge opportunity for business that embraces the new model of responsible capitalism. But it needs a very different approach. This goes well beyond what we popularly call as CSR. It is about a license to lead, a business model where business sees itself as part of society, not separate from it, and the needs of citizens and communities carry the same weight as those of the shareholders. An example of this approach is a program of empowering rural women, which we call Shakti. Shakti, which is a Sanskrit word meaning power or empowerment. Way back in 2000, we realized that in many parts of rural India, which were not easily accessible, there are a large number of people who did not have access to basic consumer products like toilet soaps, fabric detergents, and tea. However, there was some good work being done by some very advanced NGOs in organizing these women into self-help groups. Banks were providing microcredit to help them tide over their day-to-day needs. But there was a missing link. And the missing link was they did not have income generation opportunities. That's where our Shakti program came in. By leveraging the self-help group, by building on the micro-lending facilities, we helped create women micro-entrepreneurs who would distribute and market our products in villages which were not accessible by traditional distribution means. We call these micro-entrepreneurs Shakti Ammas. Amma in local parlance means mother. All at once, we broke the vicious cycle of poverty and created a virtuous cycle of growth. Today, our Shakti Ammas are self-reliant, empowered, and have an important role to play in the community. The program that began in one village in Andhra Pradesh today encompasses 165,000 villages, and we have provided income generation opportunities and created micro-entrepreneurs out of 65,000 women and 50,000 Shaktimans. They are the male members of the Shakti households. In 2010, Unilever launched what is called as the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan. The Sustainable Living Plan had a vision of doubling the growth while reducing our environmental impact and positively improving our societal impact. It had three big goals or three big pillars. One was to help 1 billion people improve their health and well-being. The second one was to halve the environmental impact of our products across the life cycle while we double our business. And the third was to source 100% of our agriculture produce from sustainable sources and in the process create thousands of livelihoods. These goals are underpinned by time-bound targets. We are already seeing the benefits of USLP in India and abroad. It has helped us to save cost, reduce the risk, and drive innovation and growth. The USLP in many ways strengthens HUL's strong business foundation of doing well by doing good. Since our inception in 1933, we have lived by a single belief. What is good for India is good for HUL. This belief continues and will continue to be a guiding principle in everything we do now and in the future. Nearly 16% of the world's population lives in India, but we have only 4% of world's water. And as a fast-moving consumer goods company, whether it is drinking a cup of tea, taking a shower, brushing your teeth, washing your clothes, every interaction of the consumers with our brands entails consumption of water. So we sat back and asked ourselves, what do we have to do to address this problem? We set up a Hindustan Unilever Foundation, and by 2015, working both on the demand side and the supply side, we would be able to conserve 100 billion liters of water. Indeed, the biggest force that will come is from making our brands lead a positive social impact. As India's largest fast-moving consumer goods company, we have the privilege of being part of the lives of millions of Indians. 800 million Indians use one or more of our brands. Indeed, this is a great opportunity for us to make a meaningful difference to their lives. We believe that every brand should serve a purpose in the life of a person who buys it. This belief has been at the forefront of how we build purpose-driven brands, and we continue to leverage them to address the social problem. The hand washing program conducted by Lifebuoy in India is a great example. In India, worldwide, a child dies of diarrhea or pneumonia every 15 seconds, which is more than 2 million deaths. In India, over 6 lakh children die under the age of 5. This simple act of washing hands with soap can save millions of lives. And this was the mission with which Lifebuoy embarked on its social program. We have reached out to over 50 million children across the length and breadth of the country. Last year, we took on an experiment in a small village called Thesgora in a remote part of Madhya Pradesh. By inculcating the habit of washing hands with soap, we were able to reduce the incidence of diarrhea by a whopping 85%. Each of these initiatives are a tangible proof that business indeed can be a force for good. However, ultimately, the test on whether we can develop a more responsible form of capitalism will rest on our leadership. We need leaders who will not only build the organizational capabilities to win in the marketplace, but also instill the values to build a sustainable and responsible business model. These are leaders who will recognize the non-negotiable in business, and that building organizational character is absolutely essential for success and survival. The need for responsible capitalism is not new. It is just what people like William Lever and Jamsetji Tata did it in their own individual ways. It is absolutely clear that the current system will have to change. The ways in which we generate and distribute wealth will have to change. The way we accommodate growth and use our resources will have to change. We are at a tipping point where the cost of inaction has started to exceed the cost of action. The need to act now is just not a moral obligation. There is also an increasingly clear business imperative. More than ever, we have to lead or be rejected. It is time that we renew our social contract, but more importantly, shape the social contract. We need to shape the social contract, moving from a value-based transaction to a value-based partnership, so that we are not only able to grow the business in the long term, but also able to meet the needs and aspirations of the communities we serve. This will help business regain the social trust and also contribute to nation building. Before I end, I think it would be most appropriate for me to again quote from Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor's book, In Search of Meaning, Man's Search of Meaning, when he said that the Statue of Liberty on the East Coast should have been supplemented by Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to me.